The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Oh, what's happening, Benton here? See that I got a donation that I was unaware of. Thank you. Thank you for that. I believe that was from the last stream. Wonderful. Had no idea. It came through on Venmo. And I'm leaving an Arco gas station in Bakersfield as I speak. Are we live? I think we are. And we're headed back to LA. How about you? I've got a lot to tell you. I believe, well, I know this is going to be an historic broadcast. Wait a minute. Let me see. Am I supposed to turn here? Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. What the heck? I think I am. Maybe not. Maybe not. My apologies. Okay, we're on the right track. Yeah, this should be something of an historic broadcast, and I'll take my time easing into this one if that's all right with y'all. We'll get up to speed here on 99 South, California 99 South. Leaving the Vagabond Hotel, the Vagabond Inn. I could not stay there another night. It was completely fine for the price. Quite lovely, in fact, for the price. What did I pay last night? Friday night, $61 with tax. Hey, not too shabby. Homeless people, homeless zombies everywhere. That's less of a drawback for yours truly than some folks, certainly. Um, anyway, I will resist the urge to complain about the traffic. I already see what's about to happen. That's okay. It happens. It happens. All right. Yeah, I have some things to tell some folks, or you folks rather. Looking at I had many different stream titles percolating in my head when I awakened this morning. It's been an excellent morning thus far, and I went with All In Yet Again. Actually, Pot Committed might have been maybe that would have been a little more apropos. Pot Committed. Mm. Shot my mouth off on the stream yesterday and forgot that I was already pot committed, a poker term. I will explain all of that. Bear with me. Oh, why did I not get more coffee? We have enough for now. Packed the car up. Yeah, that motel room was getting pretty filthy, and it was too close to the time I knew I would be leaving, and I wasn't going to clean it. I have no problem cleaning it myself. And they say, well, what about the maids? Yeah, that's fine, except the air conditioning just barely worked, and whoever the lady, if I leave and then the lady goes in there to clean it, she's going to have the door open all day, and the air conditioner, it won't catch up until the next day. And on the hot days when it was 100, it would be pretty warm in there, at bedtime. The Hourglass Hotel, interesting. Oh, they're running up my ass. There you go. Go around, fella. No reason to run up an Arkansan's ass. There's nobody out here, of course. There's absolutely no traffic. But again, I'm going to do my best not to complain about the traffic. Only a few cars by California standards. University of Phoenix next exit. Shout out to the chat. I know I'm live a little earlier than I have been of late. I guess I got up about an hour early as we ease into this. We're going to be apologizing to Jesus. How about that? Apologizing to Jesus publicly, since I shot my mouth off publicly yesterday, and I'm sure it was all for the best. I'll try to avoid the cliches. Seemed like something that had to happen, but I don't know that I want to go back over the specifics of exactly what was said. The stream is still accessible to those who know how to access it. I'm not going to give any hints, but it's there for the folks who are able to find it. And yeah, I realize I'm not exactly sure what I was going through yesterday, but I definitely allowed my anger to get the best of me. I shot my mouth off. I insulted my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, right? Or at least the concept of a Lord and Savior. And because I was on a tirade against Christianity, as the churches, right? Churchianity, as some have called it, which I'm still, my opinion on all of that has not changed, and I suspect that it won't. Again, what would Jesus do, or what would Jesus not do? Pretty sure, I don't know that he would attend any of the local churches, but I can't speak for what the Lord would or would not do, right? Were he here, certainly. Not able to do that. But, I was reminded this morning, and actually yesterday, I felt off all day long. Something was off. I could tell. Very much in touch with my sphere of influence, my energy sphere, body scans, the way other people react to me and respond to me, the situations that I find myself in, the type of YouTube videos I end up watching, right? Observing this being known as Benton, right? Delivering a performance, as we talked about, in all of the ways that I've spoken about, recently. And what happened was, this is my perspective on what happened. I'm not, I don't want to be seen. I don't even want a suggestion of me speaking for, God or Jesus or the Most High, or any of that. That's not my place. That's not my function, right? So I was reminded, well, what is your function, Benton? I'm sure I will get into that as well. I think we've got something like 112 miles to LA, so there's time, certainly. So yesterday, again, I could tell something was off, and I wasn't, connecting it to my comments on yesterday's stream, but intuitively I could kind of tell something was off, and then I do tend to review, as the day goes on, in some ways review my memory of what was said, and it popped up in my mind a few times, what I had said, more or less that the concept, the church concept of have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior type shit. And then, in my bombastic style, I was basically more or less like, well, hell no. I asked rhetorically and then answered no. And this was critical in the long run. I do believe this was critical. A crossroads, a fork in the road. So Benton, apparently, and really what it comes down to is arrogance, pride, vanity, not ego, the lack of humility, right? Most of the time when people talk about ego, they actually mean lack of humility. This idea that it's like I'd forgotten that I was not the one. It's as if I did. It's as if I healed myself, right? It's as if I had done all of these things, delivering myself from wicked spirits, right? My testimony, I've testified many times. It's as if it was if I was claiming credit for being healed, right? Well, I get the credit for changing the lifestyle and doing, what needed to be done to facilitate that. And it's interesting, taking charge of what I have the power over and what I'm able to influence. Well, yesterday, in some ways, was sort of the inverse of that, right? It was to not put myself in the proper position of where I belong, right? And generally speaking, I'm right on time. Generally speaking, I'm in the right place at the right time almost always. And then, I think back to the, being spiritually guided and protected, all of my life, right? That doesn't mean I haven't struggled and experienced, hardships and catastrophe and all these. Of course I have. Benton has, certainly. And again, I'm not going to go back through the whole cosmology of the way I see things. And certainly the true knowledge of self is still in play. What I am, my essence, my soul being one with the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit. And, part of this was, in spite of myself, in spite of what I know to be true, in spite of, I've talked about taking what works for me and integrating it and leaving the rest and saying, well, that applies to the Bible as much as any other, dead scripture or dead writing. And that's my opinion of the Bible has not changed. I'm off the Old Testament almost entirely, not completely. The Psalms, I guess, is considered Old Testament. I'm not a Bible expert. This is not a Bible channel. It's not a Jesus channel even, but the broadcaster has a way of life. I don't want to call it a belief, right? A way of life. It's a way of life. And now, here's where I'm going to sound a little bit like some of the people some of the type of folks I've been criticizing lately. It's the only way of life, meaning not for other people. I'm only directing any of this at myself. For Benton, this is the only way of life, meaning everything else is dead. And it's interesting, again, back to the reconciliation. I must reconcile these things when I talk about, what's the only thing. I'm talking about the only thing here, with life being, anything that's not one with the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible, the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit. If everything else is dead. Well, what's the way of life, right? What's the means of living? What was the approach, the philosophies that got me, that allowed, the means by which Benton unlocked the achievement? If this was a video game or a simulation, certainly those elements are present. What allowed that to be unlocked was the teachings of Jesus Christ as outlined in the Gospels of the New Testament, the KJV, the King James Version of the Holy Bible, without swallowing the Holy Bible in its entirety, without being called to answer for every word in the Bible. Free to reference the book of Job. Is that Old Testament? I think it might be. Pretty sure it is. I'm free to reference that story. I'm free to reference Jack and the Beanstalk, which I've done quite a bit recently. Because at the end of the day, anybody want to talk about judgment? I got skin in the game, Jack. I'm voting with my feet, meaning I'm voting with my actions. And I will testify. And I don't hear a lot of testimony. So that's okay. As long as I'm testifying, ain't that enough? Right? And I don't want, well, what I want is immaterial. My desires are immaterial towards, especially the listener, but I don't benefit if folks, come to the Lord or whatever. I don't even like that terminology. That terminology turns me off as well. Right. And, as I continue on my path of progress, I will continue refining and honing my own discourse, my own vernacular, and the way I speak. And at times, perhaps I will fall into shooting my mouth off through improper identification, as I did yesterday. That's the only way that can happen, right? Portions of my commentary yesterday that only results from the temporarily, failing to properly identify within myself with my own true nature. Right? An error, that's sin. In my world, that's what's meant by sin. I don't interpret the Bible for anyone or anything other than myself, inside myself, on behalf of me. And if preaching is appropriate, I will preach. Right? If a live stream is appropriate, there will be a live stream. The cliche of, those who have ears to hear, let them hear. Right? That's a very real thing. A very real thing. I did miss an opportunity to witness and preach this morning in the 7-Eleven getting my coffee, but that's okay. I was still within moments of having rededicated myself, or rededication. It's like, hey fella, how you gonna receive baptism in the Holy Spirit, that Holy Ghost fire? How you gonna receive that and then be out here speaking against Jesus? That don't make no sense, Bubba. And here's what happened, right? And this is not a punishment. It might seem like a punishment, and people may interpret it that way. It's not, strictly speaking, a punishment. But so I was, and now here's where the arrogance, the pride, right, the lack of gratitude, the cursing of one's blessings in a way, right? Here's where that comes into play. I was treating all of that, the healing, my own being delivered from fear, stress, anxiety, through this true knowledge of self, delivered from wicked spirits, unclean spirits, and demonic spirits. And in fact, on stream, when I was still driving a truck recently, got delivered from what may be the last of the demonic influence. It's hard to say, but delivered on stream. I don't know that folks really caught the power of that moment. Or, some folks will just assume it's fake, right? Like, can't possibly be real. Oh, it's very real. Very, very real. So what happened was, not aware that I've been under active healing, this entire time of this chronic illness. And the numerous times I've called out, heal me, Jesus, heal me, right? Well, ask and ye shall receive. But then, and again, not speaking for Jesus or the Most High or any of this, but it seems to me, that force of love, God is love, well, is it going to stick around where it's seemingly not wanted, right? Because remember, love is not going to be forceful. Love's not going to force itself. Perhaps it requires, wouldn't have a requirement, but perhaps it prefers an invitation. I don't know. And my commentary caused the act of healing to stop. So once the act of healing stopped, well, now we start getting into, hey, a little bit of the first twinges or tinges or vestiges of what we call this gout symptoms, right? Start cropping back up. Oh, hang on, I'm screwing up over here. Hold on, we're messing up on the other phone. All right, there we go. And I'm like, what's up with this? I haven't had any issues with the gout lately. And yesterday, part of knowing something was off was I was feeling funky on the right side of my body. I've had issues in my thoracic area, and I started some of the motions I was making. I was doing some kind of stretches, and it was similar to the way I used to stretch, before I was, really getting delivered from, again, test the spirits. Actually, that's what I wanted to call the stream, and I forgot to test the spirits. Before I was getting the real hardcore deliverance, it seemed like I was more inclined to physical discomfort in those areas, and sort of the feeling of like wanting to pop my back, or, maybe my ribs sort of being out of alignment. And I said, man, this ain't right. Having been through this healing, it's been a minute.
You don't know what you got till it's gone, but then there's sort of an inverse effect there as well. Uh, Shout out to the chat. I'm not reading the comments right now. There's sort of the inverse effect. Uh, just becoming so accustomed to receiving that healing. And I've talked about it recently. Part of spending this 50 to 60 bucks every day has been, I've realized just how much, healing I've gotten just laying on the floor and, waking up in the morning and, meditating and breathing for a couple of hours, just how, good that feels and the relief and all of that. Well, see, that was all gone. I woke up this morning, typically wake up pretty early and then go back to sleep. So woke up about 11 p.m. Here was the main sign that really got to me. That wasn't even this morning. Sorry, 11 p.m. last night. It was my morning. Like people say, my Monday. And the first thing that struck me was because I'm prepared now. Like I'm prepared that as soon as I awaken out of my slumber, I'm ready for where's the spiritual attack, so I can breathe my way through the spiritual attack. Because I've gotten pretty decent at avoiding, the cortisol, the hormones, the increased heart rate, the things that make it difficult, the certain type of breathing, the things that can make it difficult or impossible to go back to sleep and then get proper rest. And so as I was prepared to do battle, I realized, oh, wait a minute, there's no spiritual attack this morning, or as I awake, my morning. I knew that was a bad sign. I said, well, wait a minute. And I said, well, wait a minute. Why? I guess the enemy doesn't see me as something it needs to bother to attack then. If I'm going to be out here speaking against Jesus, well, why would the enemy see fit to attack me then? He's attacking himself, right? And I said, man, we're in trouble now, Jack. I said, you done that? I said, you done it now, Jack. Oh man. So then I'm laying there observing the thoughts. But remember, the physiology ain't there. See, I've talked recently about how the physiology first thing in the morning will generate the thoughts that the person can then get carried away with the fear, the anxiety, the doubts. And then later on in the day, realizing, well, actually, the content of the thoughts was not that big of a deal. Okay. Well, this was the opposite. This was like, oh, I don't have the physiology, but now I'm having the thoughts, and the content of the thoughts was, oh, you better be afeared of this, Bubba. You better be anxious about this, right? Which was, okay, no money, right? Which I have some money, but it's like soon to be no money, sleeping on the streets of any town in California, right? Car insurance about to go into, car insurance about to lapse in a couple of days, right? All of the actual, the stuff I believed I was shielded from, right? Well, that's a belief. What's that worth? We need the practice, partner. The belief without the practice ain't going to do nothing. Okay, maybe that's what's meant by faith without works is dead. I don't know. I've been critical of that concept. And I also have known for a long time that I really haven't been praying. There's a whole lot of praying, at times, right? And asking for healing. And then, even back to my conversion experience many years ago in Washington State, my direct experience of Christ. And that was on the heels of, finally, after many years of intellectually wrestling with, spiritual and biblical and religious, the writings of other religions and other philosophies, texts, and having all of this knowledge, finally spiritually surrendering and saying, listen, I don't know, what's going on, however, I said, here's the thing. I talked to Jesus. I said, Christ, Jesus, if you call out to me, I'll answer the call. That's all I said. But that was a commitment years ago. And I said, I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know if it'll happen at all. I have no idea. But I'm not going to it. It's got to come to me. But not in a, like, I'm too good, just a, hey, I'm watching and waiting. And if it comes, it comes, right? That's surrender, letting it come to me, right? which is again back to God is love and the concept of love. That's seems to me like that's what love would desire, right? It would be looking for places. It would be looking for where it's invited to come into. I'm just guessing again. I'm not speaking for no being other than myself here. And so it's as if I'd forgotten all of these things, and I can't blame the attacks of the enemy for this, right? My own personality, it's again my own positive traits. It's the positive would be the exaltation, the exalted form. It's wonderful, but then allowing the detrimental form to take over, and then found myself in a conundrum, fairly quickly. Hang on, we can go 60 or we can go like 75. We got nothing in between. So let's get on down the road here. Bear with me. We'll pass a couple of semis here. Back over. And so, I have a strong will to live. I'm not, I don't have a spirit of, and see, again, test the spirits. The idea, the notion, the feeling of, wanting to leave this place or, starting to think about, well, so the mind is seeking problem solving, right? The mind will, so as I'm thinking of, okay, now it's, street level homelessness and all of these things, but without this act of healing, without these blessings, right? Without this spiritual protection, you better be afraid, right? That's what I'm telling myself. But you'd be crazy not to be scared of all of that. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Like this. And again, remember the physiology is, I know for a fact as I'm laying there because I'm calm, cool, and collected. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You better pay attention, Bubba. And took it very seriously. And, went ahead and prayed, of course. But then sort of the first time kind of felt like it almost felt like a superstition, right? It was like, am I just selfishly, it wasn't in a spirit of service, right? Because again, what's Benton's purpose here is to be of service. I mean, that is my purpose. And so clearly I veered off into some version of, seeking of self, glorifying of self. And I am the type, I feel myself, right? So, with this new bragging on my high level thinking, right? Bragging on this, unlocking this true knowledge of self. Well, I got the big head, right? Well, my life in a lot of ways has been it's a seemingly never ending series of me getting puffed up with pride and then immediately being humbled, right? That's what I mean. If you've ever noticed when I tell people, when people want to criticize me every once in a while for pride and arrogance, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna tell a high testosterone Leo, you're gonna teach him about pride and arrogance? I don't think so. You believe I'm way, anyway. See, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it right now. Make your point, Ben. Anyway, make your point. So, I'm aware of all of this at the moment, and I know that I'm prone to that, and I'm on the lookout for it. However, I got swept away with what? Improper identification. Identified with what? The world. Identified with the things happening in the realm that are dead, right? My pride, my arrogance, that's all dead. There's no life to any of that, right? So it's my own, identification with that, right? Because it's not just identifying with something outside of myself, like, like it or not, there seems to be elements of the realm, within me, right? Like it or not. And I guess that maybe that's what the book means when it talks about, in the world, not of the world. I think that's an inversion. It's more like the world is already in you, whether you like it or not. How about you get it out of you? That's the way I see it. Again, inverse. the inverse, right? So acknowledging the fact that, yeah, some of it's in there. It don't feel good to know that, but it's true. Mhm. Hey, there's the Flixbus going down to LA, I expect. So then I had to really lay there, man, and it was just come to Jesus, right? It's like, the proverbial come to Jesus time. And I said, man, and then so the thoughts of unaliving is without Jesus, I don't want to be here. I just don't, you know, uh, don't want to be here. Don't like it, right? Well, with Jesus, what's it matter what I like? That's a preference. But without Jesus, well, now the preferences become very important. Now it's like, well, where's Benton's share of the American pie, right? What about Benton? You know, very self-serving and self-seeking, right? Which is not bad as long as it's used appropriately. This was the inappropriate way of using it. So I got myself right, and I almost got up right then and set the record straight on the stream. But I said, nah, I got things to do, and just strong feeling of it's time to leave the motel. I got a very strong intuition around leaving the motel, but not in a fearful, like I got to flee here type of way, but then recognizing, on a schedule, driving into LA and all of this, it's better to do these things early in the morning, when possible. And still have way too many possessions, of course, packed into the car. And, it's an advantage to get there early, find a parking spot where I'm headed. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's going to work out in my favor either way. And then, we get into the idea of the faith of a mustard seed. And so, after I had talked about what I talked about on the stream yesterday, then I got into, notions of, well, the birds of the air neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns and all of this. And, the Lord, takes care of them anyway. Are you not of higher value than they? It's like, well, I guess I wouldn't be, right? If this is how I'm going to live. So it's like, okay, are you really going to do street level homelessness and then pull yourself up by your bootstraps again? It's like, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. Pull myself up by my bootstraps yet again at the age of 50. Like, no, man, I'll just check the fuck out, right? But not out of a feeling, not out of a woe is me. Just a, hey, man, life's been lived, and let's get on out of here, right? Because left to my own devices, I feel that, right? Left to my own devices. And there's no purpose. See, there's no mission. And I'm only speaking for me here. Under that scenario, Benton don't have a purpose. What's there to serve, right? It's like, oh, you could serve your fellow man and woman, but yeah, sure, in a specific context. But see, I'm not the decider. I'm not the determiner of how does the service manifest and who is served, who or what is served by that necessarily. That's the part that's not my business. I've talked about before. That's the business of the Most High. And what do I pray for? That's what I pray for in part, is to be of service. So does it make any sense to not drink myself to death, to regain my health through healing and all of these mechanisms, and to only then fumble at the end? Like, it just doesn't make any sense if we think about it. Hang on, we're having to do a little bit of driving here. You definitely trust these cars behind me to let me lead the way, but I won't complain about them too much. Just give me a moment. I would have preferred to do this not driving, but killing two birds with one stone. Not a huge fan of that expression. Yeah, anyway. So, the recognition of, sort of undoing all of this hard. Well, shit, I don't know how long I've been gone, but not sure how long I've been gone. Hopefully not too long. I started to check to make sure my audio settings were correct, and the moment I touched the screen, it said something went wrong. Retry. I don't know. I have no idea how long I've dropped off. Hopefully not too long. But I might just have to pull over because this trying to drive through this is just becoming fraught with peril. And not because of me. I'm a great driver. It's because of the other people on the road who are not great at driving. So that's neither here nor there. And the one thing I will complain about is most folks associate the fast lane with getting tickets, and therefore almost a lot of people will do almost anything to stay out of the fast lane, and that's really what's causing most of the problems that I'm encountering at present. So hang on, this is getting to be dangerous actually. So bear with me. We'll try to recover from wherever I may have dropped off. But yeah, be safe. Yeah, it's a great slogan as long as nobody has to live it, right? As long as we don't actually expect the people to back it up with action. And that's society. People want to talk about in this economy or the things going on with society. I'll tell you, one of the major problems is it's all lip service. There's no requirement anymore to actually live anything. And that's nihilism, folks. That's nihilism. There's no requirement to live out any of these slogans. As long as we say be safe, there's no reason to actually behave that way. So now we're free to all get on the freeway at 4 in the morning and create very dangerous situations. Because remember, we sloganeered around in the royal we, or not the royal we in this case, but now society's sloganeered around being safe. So there's no reason to actually act upon it. That is definitely one of the major problems with the humans, certainly. But I don't have a dog in that one. But I suspect I'm not on the right audio settings. That's what's going on here. So give me a second. No, we're good. Well, either way, I'll just have to give me a moment. I'm going to have to go back over some of what I was just saying if I'm able to. So I realized as I started to have, and again, not so much an emotion of oh, it's time to end things, right? It's more of that was the problem solving. So as each problem is, oh man, what are you going to do? Without this mission or without the path you've been on, then like, oh, what now? Street level homelessness. It's too hot. It's really not even realistic to try to head back to the middle part of the country. Uh, you know, It's doable, but definitely not desirable just based on the heat wave that's already set in. It's already like 117 in Phoenix or whatever. And, part of me, being on the West Coast, when I got to the West Coast this time was based on, well, looking at the weather, it's like, yeah, this is a good time across the desert, coming from Arkansas. And so back to the Lord and Savior part, it was that I didn't realize that, this idea of hot or cold, better to be hot or cold, lukewarm spat out of the mouth. I was still hedging my bets and didn't even realize it. But here's the thing is, I've already lived my life, my secular, my earthly, my worldly, still within delusion, still defining it as a delusion. The realm, that's not changing anytime soon. Now, if it changes over time, it changes over time, my view of that. But I'm almost certain that's all accurate with respect to the nature of the realm itself, existing at the level of delusion. But then, so the problem solving was, well, you can just get up out of here. And but the immediate recognition is, well, spiritually, I still don't think that's so spiritually, what's prevented me from considering that as an actual option in the past was knowing that spiritually that wasn't an option. But knowing that spiritually that was not an option was based upon what? It was based upon, the conversion experience years ago and saying, well, if Christ calls, I will answer the call and all of this. And then seemingly having turned my back on that to some extent yesterday. Well, once that all falls by the wayside, well, now it's like, well, wait a minute. Now maybe it is an option spiritually. It's like, uh-oh. And that's when it's like, wait a minute. We got to correct all this, partner. It's like, you got to make this right, Bubba. And that's what I've done. I've made it right. And how did I make it right? Confess, repent, seek forgiveness, am forgiven like it never happened. And that's Christ. That's Christ. Now, that doesn't mean that's the entirety of what Christ is, but that is what Christ is. I can have my own opinions about, various aspects of that. Who cares? That's an opinion, right? But that is the thing itself, Los Angeles County line. We were in Kern County, I guess. A lot of hills out here and trucks is causing the issues with the driving. And the human, not the human, but the so-called worldly part of me, believe me, I would love to have that as an option. Just in a vacuum, the worldly part of Benton, right? Would love to just, okay, see you later. I had my fun. I accomplished whatever the fuck I accomplished. Lived my life and peace out, right? But see, I'm here for a reason in this delusion, and that's to serve the Most High, the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit, love and creation. That's what I'm here to do. To be of service. Right? And how many people, are Bible believing Christians and never receive the blessing of a baptism in the Holy Spirit, right? And it's sort of that thing of, almost like a prodigal son type of thing where, I can think about almost whatever, they're trying their hardest for years and years to receive that. And of course, they're blocking themselves from it because they're seeking it through the yang or again, aggression, assertion, dominance, right? And thus blocking them, creating a blockage right? That the blockage is created through the positive, right? It's quite windy up here. Wow, 4,000 feet, getting blowed around. My little car getting blowed to and fro. Woo-wee! That's some heavy winds. And uh, you know, and all of my wrongs were righted. Once I received that forgiveness, because now it's, hey, back to the mission, back to work. And what's so awesome about the work and back to work in this context is I don't have to concern myself with where am I going to lay my head. I don't have to concern myself with where does my next meal come from. I don't have to concern myself with so-called earning my keep in this dead realm, this dead delusory realm. That's not my concern, right? If I'm allowed to starve to death, I guess I'll just, meanwhile, don't threaten me with a good time, right? We're talking about a person left to his own devices that, in a vacuum would just get up out of here early. How could that person fear starvation? It doesn't even make sense logically. You can't fear starvation, right? How can I fear where am I going to lay my head tonight? Well, I can't, none of that's my job. It's not my job to provide all of that. All of that's always been provided for me. So that's part of what I was thinking about this morning. Appropriately fearful of is, well, wait a minute. Do you really? Hey, Benton, you've been coddled in a way. You've been cared for and guided and protected and steered and maneuvered this whole time. Do you really want to live from age 50 to however long without all of that? It's like, absolutely not. No, I do not. No, thank you. Not interested. Right. So again, the problem solving is, okay, well, and again, it's the Alan Watts thing of, the person always has the option of taking themselves out. So by not taking themselves out, in some way they're choosing. It's like a buy the ticket, take the ride type of thing. So I'm taking the ride. So I felt like it needed to be since it was public, insulting and blaspheming, right? Blaspheming. As much as I said that it's not, I said, well, even if it is, that's forgivable, right? Well, yeah, absolutely. If the conditions are met, and then again, back to the point I tried to make earlier, I'm pot committed anyway, based on my past choices. I reached the point of no return long ago, based on how I've chosen to live my life. So it's not even all in yet again. It's pot committed. Now, I'm free to turn my back on all of that, and which would then lead to me most likely taking myself out, or probably try to find another loophole, right? Find another a way where I wouldn't be directly responsible. But whatever, who cares? What's the difference? And the blessing. See, the blessing don't belong to me, because that's control, that's grasping, that's attachment. The idea that it's my blessing, that the blessing don't belong to me. I'm accessing the blessing. Now, what I am, my core essence is the blessing. Yeah, that's true. So what was happening to me was I was allowing, again, probably some form of demonic oppression, or, the influence of the enemy in some way, the world, the delusion itself. I was beginning to identify with this great blessing as if I was it's entitlement. That's what it's entitlement. That's what it is. Look how quickly I went into a sense of entitlement. Oh, well, I'm entitled to this, right? I'm entitled to this. What? Wait a minute. What do you mean, sir? And I wasn't saying it to myself. I wasn't saying it out loud. I wasn't thinking it that way. I was behaving as if that was the case, right? And this is what we see with certain folks. And I hesitate to mention the content creator by name, but there is a specific content creator. Well, I was starting to see some of that content creator's shorts were showing up in my feed, and I'm watching the shorts, and I'm like, damn, I'm starting to sound like this dude. I'm like, man, I'm starting to sound like this dude. Because, I don't really watch his content, historically. I said, it's almost like a slapping myself on the top of my head, like, I'm starting to sound like this guy. And that's when I really knew. I was like, oh my, this was yesterday. I was like, oh man, something ain't right. Something ain't right. You starting to sound like this guy. Because that guy, if y'all know who I'm talking about, a channel in the so-called truth community, the Panelverse. See, and it's not about placing myself above him. It's about there will never be. It will. Well, maybe it will. It's not up to me. But so far, although if I could bet money, I would. Anyway, I don't even want to. It doesn't. I don't want to even get involved in that. It's not important. But what I've seen, what I've observed so far is there's never been a moment of like a falling on one sword, a surrender, and by the way, a fellow Leo, so there seems to be the pride, the arrogance, and the ego, and all of that, which is fine. But then it's again the lack of humility, which that's not my problem, but it's my problem when I start to sound like it does become my problem because I'm in charge of making sure that don't happen. Or if it does happen, you best get right, partner. You best get right. And maybe some of that was just again, my own selfish preference. I would like to just get up out of here, honestly. If I'm honest about it, yeah, I would prefer this just to be over with. I'm not into this anymore. Benton ain't into this. Well, good for Benton that the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit, is not capable of losing the desire for being into the experience. So Benton, the worldly side of Benton, don't need to be into that. So I'm not going to speak for that force, but except where appropriate. But I will say in a thought experiment, my imagining of what that force would say is, well, hey, you're in luck because I don't need that from you, buddy. I don't need you to be into it. I just need you to shut the fuck up, and you don't have to shut up, but I just need you to serve, partner. That's all that's required. It's not all that's required, but just keep serving, keep serving, keep working, keep receiving, keep doing everything that got you to this point. See, that's the faith of a mustard seed. Is I know if I keep going, I know what's going to happen. Now I don't know what the circumstances are going to look like. I don't know what the specifics are. I don't need to know. It's none of my business. In fact, in my world, it's better that I don't know ahead of time. That and I've talked about this before, where it's like, I'm on here talking about ideas sometimes, and then other people sometimes in the comments, they have to put their own stink on it, right? They have to put their own little spin on it. Well, yeah, same thing with me. I don't need to put my own stink or my own little spin on how that force chooses to manifest through me. Why do I need to put my own stink on that by trying to predict it ahead of time, right? I don't. It's better if I don't, right? It's way better if I don't. And see, this is the type of shit that gets me excited. This is what gets me out, right? Because simply addressing now related topics, everything else is dead. Everything else is dead and belongs to this realm of delusion. So, other than what? Sense enjoyment. Well, I've been there, done that. Sense enjoyment. And then also one of, well, if this place could destroy me, it would have done so by now. Well, that's a reference to my essence or nature being one with the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency. Other than that, all there is destruction here, meaning, this world fit to destroy you, partner. If you're not going to align, you're not going to align yourself with your own fucking essence. Well, then prepare to be destroyed, right? Prepare to die, because that's death. What does the Bible say? All they that hate me love death. And again, I was trying to play that middle ground. Ain't no middle ground. See, there's only life and death, right? Now, of course, the death of this body, the death of this experience, that's all dead anyway. This body's already dead. The concept of Benton's already dead, right? That shit never had life because it's only in a delusion, right? strictly speaking, none of that ever lived in the first place. So what the heck are we even talking about here? You know, and one thing I know about Benton's life is, you know, say, okay, this ain't for me. Well, again, back to the pot committed. I'm all in. I'm pot committed. So we're well past the dip in the toe stage. Okay. Get busy living or get busy dying. You know, I guess I'm talking in cliches now, but it's all pertaining, right? It's all pertaining. And I'm almost certain, I can't say for sure, but my days of tax paying is probably over. Probably. I can't say for sure. I don't want to say never, because every time I say never, it seems like I end up doing that. But probably my days of regular employment are over, most likely. Right. Now, I'm happy to work, so-called under the table or whatever. I'm happy to do whatever's appropriate. What I know of tax paying is that shit ain't appropriate. Again, what would Jesus do? What wouldn't Jesus do? Now, see, my mistake in some ways is trying to apply this to other people and then martyring or wounding myself, spiritually and emotionally and psychically based on, look at these people who claim Christ and how they're behaving. That's got nothing to do with me. That's none of my business. That is none of my business. And so I recognize now with these church people. See, I don't want anything to do with it. See, it's a preference. So I think part of the forcefulness of my diatribe against churches yesterday was based on it seeming, I can't say for sure, but it's seeming likely that in the near future, in spite of my preference, I'm going to be involved with these churchgoers. I can't fucking stand them, right? Well, part of this birds of the air, they don't sow, they don't reap, gather into barns, all of this, they're taken care of. And part of this being of service is I don't get to pick and choose, right? Meaning if I'm all in and I'm pot committed and Jesus Christ and the Most High sends me off to serve the damn churchgoers, I guess that's what, and maybe more likely serve the leadership of the church, but not in the ways they probably expect. Could you imagine being some sort of person in authority in a church, and then the Most High sends Benton into your midst? Goodness gracious! I mean, you want to talk about the idea of like a cosmic joke, or the Most High having a sense of humor, especially somebody from L.A. and the people doing everything right in a way, and then but only blocking themselves from being able to receive the Holy Spirit. But then the baptism in the Holy Spirit. But then here comes this, by comparison, sort of this bumbling. That's what's about to be. That's probably what I'm now so excited about. That's probably what's about to be unleashed on some of these folks. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And the reality of the situation is boots on the ground day to day within the delusion and the dystopia. I don't realistically speaking, how am I going to have the time in the day to earn my own living, right? How am I going to have time to go out here and serve corporations and making rich people richer and simultaneously serve the Most High and inflict, not damage, but, in some way inflict maximum damage on these Pharisees or whatever? Does that seem realistic? You know, And then I already know what to do. I already know how to go. They say everything happens for a reason and all of this. Well, there's a reason why I'm already know not everything there is to know, but there's already a reason there's a reason I'm already acclimated and adapted to homelessness. Right. Right. The Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. That's me, partner. Now I'm not saying I'm the Son of Man. See, I'm not putting myself up there. I'm saying, you know, same for Benton. Same for Benton. And what's the point of being here if I'm not going to be excited, full of vigor and fully engaged, right? And that's part of me sitting around this motel room. It's been quite the opposite. There's been moments of engagement on this live stream, and there's been moments of engagement, outside of that to some extent. But overall, what we're seeing is just somebody sitting around 8 hours of screen time on one of two phones yesterday. 8 motherfucking hours, right? So it's like, what am I going to do? Sit around and watch fucking YouTube all day, every day until I run out of money, and then drive to LA? And it doesn't even make sense. Like what are you doing, sir? What are you doing, sir? All right, hang on. I got to check in and make sure we're still on the proper route. One moment, please. I think at some point I think it's a straight shot, but I want to make sure. Oh yeah, we're good. Police ahead. Okay, well, good for them. Oh yeah, we're good. We're golden. We're golden. But anyway, hopefully all of that serves to correct the record. Now here's the best part of all of this is, starting to realize that I'm not going to want to live, especially not without the act of healing and the blessing and the guiding and the protecting. Certainly, especially as a street level homeless person, I'm just not. No thanks. Yeah, it was a novel experience living homeless all those years. I got a lot out of it. I enjoyed a lot of it. Anthropologically and all of this. But I burned out on it. I'm burnt out on it, folks. I've just lost interest in it as far as the thing itself. It's just simply not going to hold my interest now. Certainly more than willing to do it if that's what needs to happen, but open to other possibilities also, right? Certainly open to other possibilities. But you know what happened right after? And this is again back to the faith of a mustard seed. I confessed out loud. I repented out loud. I sought forgiveness out loud, and I said out loud, "Am forgiven," like it never happened. Most immediately, there of time, right? God is love. He came back right away. Relaxation and healing. My cup runneth over, right? And I can't speak for nobody but me, but outside of what else is there for Benton? What else is there, right? And that is the lie. That is the made to lie down in green pastures, right? That is the having a table prepared for me in the presence of mine enemies. Well, that all went away based on my own foolish actions, right? You don't know what you got till it's gone style, taking it for granted, cursing blessing, temporarily accepting the realm's offer to curse blessing by via my own human psychology and my own personality, got the big head puffed up with pride and knowing I'm that way. That's the most hilarious part. I know I have those tendencies and I still did it. Right. But I also recognize that this was probably, again, not speaking for that force, but I suspect that was a way to say, hey man, like, he doesn't recognize that he's still trying to play the middle. So it's almost a way of sort of forcing me to commit one or the other. Because I myself have been talking on my own live stream and read the biblical verses out loud on stream about make the tree good or make the tree rotten, right? Hey, man, get busy living or get busy dying. Pick your path, buddy, and stick to it, right? Uh, you know, get shed of this trying to play the middle part, right? If I meet people and they view me as a Jesus freak, so be it. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? That's their problem. What's that got to do with me? Let them deal with it. Let them deal with it. You know. Man, I'm gonna find a place to go to the bathroom here. But yeah, good times, man. Good times. And in my critiques of Christianity and people not practicing the teachings of Christ, well, part of my testimony and I'm a witness to the fact that I was able, partially, it wasn't just me, right? Of course, but the fact that was able to, all of that was able to happen for me already today, that's based on uh, me teaching myself bit by bit, piece by piece, to live the teachings of Christ as outlined in the New Testament. And that's what the Christians and the churchgoers, that's the part they seem to miss, is that they're going to have to learn how to do all, they don't have to. Wait a minute. See, now I'm talking wrong. If they want to, if they have an actual desire to practice what they believe to be or know to be their religion or suspect to be their religion, that's not a going to a building. It's not a reading of a book. It's a teaching of oneself in conjunction with the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit, by utilizing and testing the spirits over time within a delusion, right? To manifest that or to allow that to express through the individual, right? And that's probably a big part of what I'm going to be preaching on. I suspect, I don't know, because it's not my sermon. It's not my sermon. See, it's the sermon of the Most High. It's the sermon of that force. It's not Benton's sermon, right? It's powerful preaching. And Benton has been prepared. The way has been prepared for almost 50 years now for Benton to have been given the attributes and the abilities to powerfully preach, right? Which is, as far as I can tell, that's what I've been made to do, in part, right? And that's how my great grandmother, my mom's, my grandmother's mother, Mrs. Buffington, was. I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, I suspect. Hard to remember. Went to visit her on a Sunday probably, and had the book, in my Sunday best. Fucking damn near, damn near a three-piece suit. Little Benton with his book bag, and just I remember her laughing. This is one of the few memories I have of my great grandmother, actually. And I remember her kind of giggling and something about we got us a preacher, basically. But she didn't. I don't remember her saying it to anybody but me, right? It wasn't based on this notion of my family is Jehovah's Witnesses. See, she left it out of the Jehovah's Witness context because she would have known that was a bunch of bullshit, and she would have known all that. Oh, I could have stopped there and went to the bathroom. I'm slipping. Damn it! Damn it! Got to take a leak. Get more coffee. Oh shit! I know where I'm at. That was my exit. This is where another motel is that I've stayed in from time to time. Shame on the mess. I didn't recognize. I would have only recognized it from the other direction, though, to actually take the exit. Shit. So she could see it back then, with whatever level she was vibrating on. And did you know, man, she was on her way to a natural death. Her health was poor, and but strong spirit, man. And actually, the only other Leo I know of in the family, my great grandmother, and uh, there may be others, but it's the only other one I know of. Very, very, very strong spirit, and she was on her way out a natural death, and they fucking resuscitated her, and then she lived, another however many years with that strong spirit. And you know, I could recognize years ago that was probably not supposed to happen that way. Right? Humans interfering in a process that really did not pertain to them, right? And humans panicking and this is what an old lady dying of natural causes. How is that a bad thing? And meanwhile, now my grandmother, 90 years old, and just strong spirit again, just waiting for the Lord to take her. Hopefully they don't try to resuscitate her. When it's finally her time. Goodness gracious, silly fucking humans, man. Oh, but an intention. See, the people will say, well, we had an intention to help or an intention to do this. What's that got to do with anything, right? What does that have to do with it? Oh, well, we had an intention. Yeah, and that intention led to, uh, probably not a great outcome. Although I can't say for sure, right? Interesting how that works. Now, is there going to be anywhere for me to pull over? Is the question. Motherfucker. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. Now we're going to do something I don't like to do, which is backtrack. That's okay. We got time, I think. Unless I'm just going to pull over and go to the bathroom right here, which maybe I am. Maybe I am. I think I am. All right. Be right back. All right. Let's see. Yep. All right. We're back. Appreciate y'all being here. I know this is more of a live stream for posterity. This one ain't even really for who catches it live. Which is obviously more than welcome to it, but this one's more for posterity, setting the record straight. Oh, wait a minute. Can we do it without getting in trouble? Oh shit. Yeah, here we go. All right. We were able to get right back on the freeway. So that's good. That's good. Yeah, man. So that's what I'm up to, if anybody's curious. Oh man. Woo! Boy howdy. So it's interesting. Seems like the proper outcome is came out all of me shooting my mouth off yesterday. So that's good. I'll take it. I'll take it. And then I guess people say, why is he going to LA and there's riots? Well, here's the thing about riots, if anybody's curious. Unless it's something like, an actual, like the George Floyd stuff or, the Rodney King stuff, it's confined to a very small area. I was in Portland when there was way before the pandemic. I was in Portland when a lot of that Antifa and MAGA stuff was going down. And it's always, in a small area, you know, whatever level of a psyop this is, it's confined to a relatively small area. So it's just everything's more or less normal everywhere else. If that makes sense. San Fernando, 15 miles. LA, 36. Good time. See, I'm remembering where stuff is. There's a 7-Eleven. I could have went in there and got coffee, but that's all right. That's all right. I'll get it once I get parked. What time is it? 5. Yeah, it's still early. 5:10 in the morning. Well, I guess I said just about everything I wanted to say about all of that. So I guess now we could get into some of the mundane type of topics. Just shoot the shit. There are folks. There's less and less uh, as the subscribers drop off one by one over time, uh, which is fine. You know, I get it. This ain't for everybody, but there are folks who are interested. It's my personality, me as a person. All of this. Now, I don't really take any sort of pride in that, and I get it. There's channels where I'm interested in. There's a couple of channels where I'm interested in sort of the person, and which is funny because I don't really get to engage in those channels like I might want to. Because pretty quickly I can recognize the force of my personality starts to kind of take over in a way. Even if I'm just typing, right? Even if it's not panels and I'm just typing, the force of my personality. Because back when I was doing the daily live streams from the hotel streams, I would go into other panel channels and I would want to post. I would want to post in the live chat, about the topic or whatever. But then, people would want to greet me, which I appreciated it. But a lot of times I would hesitate to greet people back because if I did, it was the whole chat would be me saying hi to 10 different people. And I can type fast enough on a computer. Pretty soon it's me. It's just like my chat room, right? And I didn't. I was always sensitive to not doing that, and at the risk of maybe people seeing me as rude. It's like, well, you know, I can either just seemingly ignore this person that's wanting to chat with me, or I can take over the whole fucking live chat. There's really not a lot in between, right? But I think I can't say for sure, man. I won't really know till I get there. But I think I'm done sleeping in this car, man. Just God, even the thought of sleeping in the fucking fetal position again. And man, my knees feel so good. Sleeping all of these, however many months it's been. Being able to stretch my legs out. You know, Yeah, we're starting to hit LA traffic, but in my experience, it really doesn't get too bad through here at this time of the morning. Saturday's basically the same as all the other days, more or less. Sundays, there's definitely less traffic in the morning, but Saturday is pretty close to what would normally be seen. What did I pay for gas? $4.29, which I know it sounds like a lot, but it's actually not too bad by Cali standards. Could probably find something closer to 4 if I were, but there's no point shopping around to save 20 to 30 cents. I don't like LA, I have to say. You know, it's got its issues, obviously, and the culture certainly has its problems. And I don't want to go back to talking about my looks too much, but I fit in. I fit in a certain type of way, right? On that, there's a certain level of shallowness that I fit right in, right? But man, them homeless people in Bakersfield, man, I feel for them. I really do. And most of them, I could tell. I was kind of curious because I was trying to figure out, like, there's a lot of them just sort of laying around in the shade all day, not doing a whole lot. But then, the kind of the desert, the hot, because that is desert, I guess. I guess it all is out here, but it's the part where it gets real fucking hot in the summer. Every day is hot once the actual summer starts. With probably some exceptions, but when I first got to that motel, there was a lot of people. You can tell when they get their checks, they go stay in that motel and do drugs. So there were still some of those folks hanging on, and there was a domestic dispute in the room next to me. Maybe the third night I was there, and the cops came. I don't know if the guy got arrested or not, but however that turned out, never saw him again. But so I finally figured out today that they're laying around waiting for their checks. What kind of, it's just a miserable, man. I feel bad for them. It's just a miserable life there. And, yeah. And I probably am going to get me some. I probably am going to do some vaping today. I'll say that. Oh, and when I vacuumed my car out the other day, that fancy car wash had the free vacuums, but they also had air. So I blew out underneath my seats, and I had a mini cigarillo that I rolled in fucking Michigan a long ass time ago, and I knew I dropped it between the seats, and I looked for it, and I finally found it, and I was like, I kind of like to smoke this thing just to see what happens, but it was like, no, and it wasn't even that good of weed. And they have good weed in Michigan. It was that I intentionally bought some very cheap weed. I mean, like, I'm talking like it was like 35 an ounce for what I bought, or maybe I got like 2 ounces for it's something crazy like that. What did I just run over? Just ran something over. Hopefully that's not a flat tire. But yeah, back to it's all blessings. After trying to curse myself yesterday, tried to curse myself, y'all. Because again, not speaking for Jesus, but ain't nothing gonna stick to whatever that is, right? Call it Christ consciousness, call it whatever you want. That's a quickening spirit, so ain't nothing gonna stick to that. It's gonna just vibrate a little quicker and get up out, But yeah, I'm definitely interested. It's definitely some anticipation of what's to come, not knowing. Again, surrendered, spiritual surrender. No spiritual victory without spiritual surrender. Absolutely. Man, now I don't know what's going on here. I can't get into a lane. Every time I think I'm in the lane starts. Let's see, we're still how far out are we? Oh, we're still 25 miles out. Yeah, buddy. Well, and part of all of this is, a lot of the things I've been complaining about recently and talking about, they just don't seem that important right now. So I'm having trouble sort of motivating myself to even find a topic at the moment. If that makes sense. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Oh, Sam Hyde released. They did a preview for. They released a preview for uh, $1 Million Extreme season 2. They did the first episode is on YouTube, except it's not the whole episode. It's like most of it. That's pretty interesting, man. It's pretty interesting. I can't say I recommend it, but it was interesting. On my post tab though is a video Sam Hyde put out on his personal channel. I thought it was hilarious personally. I forget even what he was talking about, but and Sam's been talking about God and Christianity and all of this, but I don't know, man. I'm not sure if he means it or if it's a LARP or what. But and that's sort of the thing with me and the Jesus talk, is you know, to me, it's just not. It's never going to be enough to talk about God and the Bible and all of this. It's like, where's the Jesus talk? That to me, that's a sure sign that something ain't quite right. Sam, he'll mention God and he'll mention, some of the ideas that come from the teachings of Christ in the Bible, but Jesus is never mentioned for whatever reason. I find that to be somewhat curious. There's another Vagabond Inn. I guess that's a chain. I guess that's a chain. I have to change my shirt. I sweated through my shirt yesterday. That's one thing I've been talking about, man, with the BO and all of this, and eating those 2 burritos. I had another burrito yesterday. Oh, we can get into some hot burrito talk. Yesterday's burrito was quite disappointing. Of course, I guess I'd blasphemed, so why would I expect to get a proper burrito after that? But just those 2 burritos was enough to. Now I got BO. When I stick to a little more strict to my diet, I don't get the BO. Or at least not the stronger kind of foul stuff. Cut my hair. Got to cut my hair yesterday. With a number 2 guard on my clippers, so I know it's not going to be even. So that's all right, though. Looks all right for now. Yeah, we're in the shit now, so bear with me. We're in the thick of it. The traffic. But yeah, my burrito, man. They didn't make my burrito. I think what happened was I ordered a veggie burrito with no lettuce, no tomato, but it comes with cheese, and they didn't put the cheese on it. And I couldn't tell if they put sour cream on it or not. I think maybe they started to, but I think they got all up in their head thinking I was a vegan. Probably some vegan, came in there and and did a special request or whatever. Yeah, I'm not a vegan. I'm not a veg. I eat meat. I'm not a vegetarian. I don't have to be a vegetarian to eat a fucking veggie burrito. So they left off all the items that I guess would offend a vegan. That's what made it. It was just mostly rice. Paid $12 for fucking rice and avocado burrito, more or less, with I guess a little bit of onion and cilantro. I know I can go back and complain, and I just fucking ate it. Like fuck it. And with all of my years of customer service, I can't even really. It's very difficult for me to bring myself to complain. At a restaurant or whatever. And what am I going to do? They're going to try to give me a refund, or they're going to try to make me another one. It's like, it's a restaurant. They're probably struggling, most likely, although, who knows? But, business wise, it's like, why even bother? Just eat the fucking burrito and shut the fuck up. And then leave town. But I bet I'm going to eat at my spot today. My Rodeo Express. It'll be a few more dollars, but I'll be able to get black beans instead of fucking with them refried beans. Which now Rodeo Express, they have a proper refried bean that has made with actual lard. I'm pretty sure. And otherwise, see, it would say, here's how you know it's made with lard. It would say vegan. Since it's in LA, they put on the menu, they put a little V next to stuff that's vegan. So there's no V next to the refried bean, so I can almost be certain that it's made with lard, right? So we made it with anything but animal fat. It would have a V next to it, right? And I still got money, so I get to enjoy myself on that level, right? So yeah, it's all coming up. It's all looking pretty good for Mr. Benton as day breaks here. SoCal. And God bless California, man. These people are lost. These Americans, I'm telling you, especially these ones who want to talk about Trump and MAGA and Republicans. Everything's about the economy and this and that. And how can people? It just doesn't even make sense, man. It's a schism. I'm telling you, it's a psychological schism. To, on the one hand, want to uphold the strength of America and economy and all of this, but then at the same time, make fun of California and talk about how lost California may or may not be. It's brothers and sisters. It's still the fourth largest economy in the world. It's by far the largest economy of any state. Now, Texas may or may not catch up. We'll see. But hang on, we're driving again. But based on what MAGA seems to think is important, why is everybody like gleefully, looking at what they might refer to as the downfall of California? Meanwhile, look at what's going on in Texas with the housing market. The fucking housing market in Texas is probably collapsing. It's not going to collapse in California. Now, it's going to go through its cycles like it always does. And yeah, we can talk about lack of affordable housing. Yeah, of course. That's been an issue for probably 40 years. Like, for real. At least 30 years of lack of affordable housing. That's been happening for a long ass time. And, whatever economic struggles happen, that shit happens in places like California first, right? It's going to crash first. It's going to recover first. And then, I've been looking at some of this economics, and I look at a lot of Gen Z channels on YouTube now. Let me calm down. I can tell I'm already getting worked up. Chill out, Ben. See, I don't even, why am I even, who cares? Why am I even talking? See, there's something in me, the worldly side of Benton, there's something about the worldly side of Benton that wants to settle people's hash. Why do I care? I don't care. Shut the fuck up, Benton. Who cares? Just let it be, man. Let it fucking be. Let it fucking be, man. I don't have a dog in that hunt. But yeah, I find it interesting. Oh, and here's another reason I figured out I was really in trouble yesterday. I almost got into an argument with somebody in the YouTube comments on the channel. I caught myself though, but I had this very visceral reaction at the level of, I had like a fight or flight response. Because I had responded to somebody, somebody made a YouTube comment. I responded to it with my, my intelligence and all of these things. And then got a very unintelligent response. And then, had that adrenaline dump or whatever and wanted to go to fucking settling this guy's hash. I caught myself and said, "What are you going to now? You're going to argue with somebody in the YouTube comments?" Like that's when I really knew something was wrong. Yesterday, I said, "Oh man, this is bad. Something's gone wrong somewhere. This is a bad omen, sir. Bad omen." If I'm getting into arguments in the YouTube comments, that's a bad day. But I caught myself, and I just left one, kind of short response, and that was the end of it. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna get up out of here. There ain't too much more to talk about. Appreciate y'all riding with me, and again, did this stream more for posterity than anything else. So, thanks for watching. Bye.